Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Forensic Focused. I am your host, Charles Amodio with FAZ Forensics. At FAZ Forensics, we specialize in forensic accounting and business valuation. When answers matter, FAZ delivers. Today I'm here with my colleague, Sophia Hourihan. Sophia, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Charlie. How are you?
What's new in your neck of the woods?
Oh, new, not too much. Transitioning to fall, which is really nice because you get into new routines, new focus, new weather. So I'm actually excited about that.
Good. What's your favorite thing about the fall?
Oh, I think probably the weather. I am a summer girl. I love the sun, but I think it's so nice to have like the windows open and fresh air and it's not as hot and muggy. So I enjoy that and doing a bunch of outdoor activities in the fall.
It's one of the nice things about being in the Northeast, right? You get those change of seasons, and I've always enjoyed that. And I know I'm actually down in Florida this week, and yeah, it's like 90 degrees every day as opposed
Oh,
to high 60s where, up in Saratoga. But it's all good. It's all good. No, nothing, not too bad,
Florida's good once in a while,
It is. It
but I
is.
couldn't do the no seasons.
Oh no, yeah, I would agree. I think being able to come up, I'll be back up in the Saratoga area end of this week, but it's just nice to be able to have those seasons. And I just wish the winter was a little bit shorter, but can't have
That's
everything,
fair.
right?
That's fair. We can't have it all though.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's going on work-wise? What have you been working on?
Work has been busy. We've been doing so many different claims. I feel like our BI claim practice has really escalated over the past year, which has been really great. Summer, as we said, kind of like tones down a little bit, but in the fall, I find that things pick up, especially with like storm seasons coming in and more natural disasters happening and things like that. So we've been picking up. It's been busy, but that's a good thing.
That's always a good thing, right?
Hmm.
So what types of cases have you been working on specifically?
Lately, I find that we've been doing a lot of rent losses. I think it's something that we started like a little niche in, and then now it's just really picked up. I think once we establish our process and people they realize how simple it is to kind of hand it over to us, and we get them done fairly quickly. So we've been getting a big influx of rent loss claims, which are always good to work on, but they provide some challenges depending on the information we get to.
So what kind of challenges do you deal with the loss of rents claims?
I think a lot of times with rent losses, I found it's just not straightforward from the get go. So let's say a loss happens and maybe a few units go out on that day. That's straightforward, but a lot of times people will live in conditions that will change over time. So if you have a storm that happens on, one day, maybe it's not until the month later that the water damage is so significant that it's starting to create an uninhabitable situation for the tenant. So usually the breakdown, if you have a 200 to 500 unit building and units are going out at all different dates for all different reasons, you have to make sure that the coverage is there, and also that you're just getting the right move out dates, the right reasons, aside from just natural occupancy fluctuations. So they can get pretty complex the bigger they are and the longer the periods go on.
So you were talking earlier about process. I guess, what is the process when you evaluate a loss of rents claim? Like, can kind of give me your A to Z process that you go through?
Yeah, so first, it's always, just a quick discussion with the insured. I think it's most advantageous to get off the bat an idea of what their property looks like, how many tenants they have, what their regular occupancy turnover rates are. I think sometimes you find you have a conversation and realize that it's a college area, so they are mostly occupied in the fall and they can't turn over leases in different months. And there are just different circumstances of each loss. A lot of times there are also different buildings, like if it's a campus style place that has multiple buildings that went down, it's important to know, did they allocate employees to just different buildings because some of the buildings weren't affected. And having those conversations on the front end is super helpful. And from that point, after having that initial conversation, we do a document request. So usually with a document request, we need lease agreements, rent rolls, profit and loss statements. Typically, sometimes we need more than that, especially if there's cancellations and tenants provide a reason for why they canceled. It's good for us to go over those documents. Also concessions, we see a lot of concessions. Sometimes the unit will be damaged, but not enough damage to make the tenant move out, but it's enough of an interruption that the facility will say, okay, we'll abate half your rent this month. So we need to see documentation for things like that as well. At that point, we usually just go through and see, how many months of lost rent do we have, how many units are down, and calculate it from there, really. I think the profit and loss kind of guides us in terms of other income and expenses. So it's like two separate calculations. We have the loss of rents claim, where it's just what we talked about with the units being down, the tenants that are displaced, the concessions. And then there's also just like the overall business income loss attached to that, which would be the other income associated with those lost units, as well as the discontinued expenses associated with those units. So between those two pieces, we usually roll up to our final BI calculation and put out a report and analysis.
Okay. Okay. And, so the bigger the property, obviously there's potential for higher losses.
Mhm.
But it sounds like there's a lot more, when you get involved in the claim, just determining what units are down and getting documentation supporting that.
Exactly. And there's a lot of updates with rents losses. A lot of times we get them on the front end, so they don't have an idea of an estimated timeline. And also each unit at times are on different timelines. So you could, have such a huge building that maybe the fifth floor is done, but it's another few months until you get the first floor done. So you kind of need to continuously check in with the client and the insured just to make sure that you're aware of those timelines. How quickly are you getting tenants in once you have that repaired, or is the tenant still turned off by maybe what the facility looks like? If you have a facility or a building that's completely, burnt down on one side, that can deter a lot of people from wanting to rent, even if a specific unit is available. So you have to consider things like that as well.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. What do you like about those loss of rents claims?
I think they're very practical and like easy to kind of conceptualize in a common sense standard. Like I really enjoy doing the businesses and the facilities and buildings that I can, I don't know, kind of put myself in. Like we've all lived in apartment buildings before, and I can see how these things would just play out in real time. And you also feel like you're, helping people, as always with RBI claims. It's not the building owner's fault that something happened to their building, and a lot of times it can create a lot of uncertainty, not just in that initial restoration period, but are people going to want to come back? People lose super long-term tenants. Like you'll see someone who's been renting for 10 years and then they decide to move out, and that's not a good person to lose. So you always
Right.
want to make sure that you're recovering the business to its whole piece before the damage happened. And
Okay.
that's fulfilling in a way.
Yeah. Okay. What other types of claims have you worked on recently?
We've been doing a lot of, production facilities. I feel like agriculturally as well. We get a lot of those claims in, but specifically some farms that have gone down recently, a mushroom farm actually, which is very interesting to look into because that's not like your typical business that you see every day. So I've been learning a lot about the different types of mushrooms and how they grow those in their cycles, and that's very interesting as well. Always trying to get like an understanding of the business before we can actually calculate these things. So
So, on the day to day, you get like different variety of types of work, right? Loss of rents and, some farming claims and things of
yeah,
that nature.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've actually been doing more stock losses lately as well. So if something happens to like a warehouse per se that's just holding a lot of inventory, it's not necessarily your business interruption piece. It's a lot of, inventory interruption, stock loss. So those have been coming in a little more frequently as well, which have been interesting.
Okay. All right. Good. I know that, when I started in forensic accounting over 25 years ago, if somebody,
Oh,
told me, I just dated myself. Somebody told me that I was gonna, understand the difference between a pullet producing chicken and an egg producing chicken, I'd say, what are you talking about? But
It's so
we've done a lot of egg farms, a lot of chicken farms and duck farms and things like that. And obviously, one I've done a few different claims on is various cow farms, and
true.
milk producing cows and things like that. So, yeah, those agricultural claims are great. One thing I like about those agricultural claims is that, I will say this: most of the farmers, I'd say a majority of the farmers that we've dealt with, they have great records. They
That's
get you
true.
whatever you need, and it's very, very helpful in our process. And obviously, as you know, that becomes always becomes a challenge in these types of cases is getting the
Yep,
information we need. Farmers have great records.
they really do. I imagine it's because they need to be so aware of what they're producing. Obviously, so they just have that stuff readily available. Production, like documents, is always a bit of a issue. Um, as on the front end, it is. Sometimes it just takes a really long time for people to get their documents together, and that just can create delays that can be really frustrating because you might need one piece, but you can't move to the next piece until you have that piece, and that's what tends to drag claims along. I think is actually not as much. We get everything in the first week, and then they're waiting on us. I find it's just a constant back and forth of waiting for them to get kind of everything we need. So that's always a challenge, just staying on top of everybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. What are you reading right now?
Reading. I actually I'm really not a huge reader at the moment because I always said after my CPA exams I just was a little burnt out. I've been doing a lot more like physical stuff or trying to get outside, trying to work out more. But my sister asked me to join a book club with her, so I'm thinking about it.
Oh, okay, okay. There you go.
And
There
book
you
clubs
go.
are like on the rise again. People are starting to do book clubs again.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's good. That's awesome. I think it became very popular during COVID. That way people can connect, right? Obviously, they couldn't meet in
yeah,
face to face, but they could meet on Zoom and discuss the book and, have some social interaction for sure.
exactly. So maybe I'll join that and then I'll have a better answer next time for whatever book we're
Okay.
reading.
That's good. That's good. So what is one thing that everybody should know about you
Oh, um,
to put you on the spot?
one thing everybody should know about me. Oh gosh, I don't know. Can you narrow that down a little bit? Like something that I like enjoy doing or a personality trait?
Oh, either or. That's up to you.
Okay. Maybe that I just a personality trait. I don't really take anything too seriously. Of course, I take my work seriously, like we're in that profession. But outside of that, and like in the office and coworkers, like I really am kind of just a playful, like light-hearted person. I think sometimes our job can be quite intense, and when we're dealing with insureds or we're dealing with these stressful situations, we have to be like quite, I don't know, not aggressive, but just very serious in what's happening. But that doesn't really match, I guess, who I am as a person. So I feel like
Okay.
I have two personalities.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
you're like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of a
that's
person. Yeah.
exactly it.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. That's good to know. That's good to know. Excellent.
Yeah,
Well, that's all the time we have today, Sophia. Just thank you for coming on today, and I will talk to you soon.
that sounds great. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.